There are places where the mist remembers names, where wind hums through heather like a hymn for the forgotten. In these glens, truth and legend share the same breath. Here the guardians still keep watch. Forget the history books. To truly understand Scotland, you must understand the monsters that built it, the ones that haunt its lochs, guard its glens, and whisper through the mist. These creatures weren't just stories. They were protectors, punishers, and reminders, living symbols of Scotland's wild soul. Tonight, we'll journey through the myths that shaped a nation. From the shape-shifting horse that lures riders to watery graves, to the wolfman who offers food to starving fishermen. Each legend tells us what Scotland once feared and loved. Welcome back to Whispered Chronicles, echoes of forgotten lore. Let's begin where the water runs deep, with the most famous of Scotland's restless spirits. Ever stood by a dark, deep loch in Scotland, the wind whispering secrets across the water? You might feel a chill, a sense of being watched from the depths. Long, long before the world started searching for Nessie, the people of Scotland knew what stirred the waters. They had a name for it, the Kelpie. This isn't just another monster story. The Kelpie is something far more ancient, more complex. It's a shape-shifting water spirit, said to haunt nearly every river, stream, and loch across the rugged Scottish landscape. And its true nature? Well, that depends on where you are, and which story you hear whispered on the wind. Imagine you're a traveler, exhausted from a long journey through the Highlands. The path is rough, your feet are sore, and a wide, cold river blocks your way. Suddenly, through the mist, you see it, a magnificent horse. It's strong, with a coat that gleams like wet stone and a wild, flowing mane. It stands patiently, as if waiting just for you. It seems like a miracle, a gift from the land itself, offering a ride to the other side. Climb onto its back, grateful for the relief. But as the horse steps into the icy water, a terrifying change occurs. Skin once smooth becomes sticky, adhesive, like flypaper. You're trapped, unable to dismount. Panic sets in as you realize your mistake. This is no ordinary horse, this is the Kelpie. With a triumphant whinny that sounds more like a scream, it plunges deep, deep beneath the surface. It's dragging you down to a watery grave from which there is no escape. This is the most famous and most feared version of the Kelpie. A predator, a trickster that uses its beautiful form to lure the unwary to their doom. Its goal is simple, to drown its victims and, some say, devour them, leaving only the heart or liver to wash ashore. Tales like these served as stark warnings, a way for parents to keep their children away from the treacherous, fast-flowing rivers that could snatch a life in an instant. The story of the beautiful horse was a memorable, terrifying lesson: don't trust the water. But the Kelpie is a spirit of duality, as complex and changeable as the water it inhabits. Travel to a different part of Scotland, and you'll hear a very different story. In some regions, the Kelpie wasn't a monster, but a guardian. It might appear not as a magnificent stallion, but as a shaggy, wild-looking pony. Instead of luring people in, it would actively warn them away. Imagine a group of children playing too close to a river in spate, its currents swirling and dangerous. The Kelpie might appear on the opposite bank, kicking and stamping, creating such a commotion that it frightens the children back to the safety of the shore. In these tales, the Kelpie is a protector, a spirit of the wild that understood the dangers of its domain and sought to keep humans safe from them. It was the personification of nature's own warning signs, the roar of the current, the deceptive calm of a deep pool. So, which is the true Kelpie? The beautiful killer, or the shaggy protector? The answer is both. The Kelpie represents the two faces of nature, especially water. It is the breathtaking beauty of a still, glassy loch at dawn, and it is also the terrifying, raw power of a flash flood that can sweep away everything in its path. It is both alluring and deadly, a perfect symbol for the untamed Scottish wilderness. This duality extends to its very form. While most often depicted as a horse, the Kelpie was a true shapeshifter. Some stories say it could appear as a handsome young man, hoping to lure a young woman to the water's edge before revealing his true nature. The only giveaway? The weeds or shells tangled in his hair. But its power wasn't absolute. Like many creatures of folklore, the Kelpie had a weakness: its bridle. Legend has it that if a mortal could get a hold of the Kelpie's bridle, they could command the spirit. The tables would be turned. the untamable force of nature would be harnessed. One famous story tells of a laird, the Laird of Morphy, who managed to capture a Kelpie. He forced it to haul heavy stones to build his castle. Once the work was done, the laird, perhaps feeling a pang of pity, released the spirit. But the Kelpie, as it returned to the water, laid a curse upon the laird's family, a curse that was said to plague his descendants for generations. The moral was clear: you can try to tame the wild, but it will always have the last word. So what does this have to do with Scotland's most famous resident, the Loch Ness Monster? Well, think about it. For centuries before the first modern Nessie sighting in 1933, Scots had stories to explain the strange things they saw in their lochs. A strange ripple on a calm day, mysterious shape gliding beneath the surface, sudden, unexplained splash in the distance. It was the Kelpie. These ancient tales were Scotland's first way of making sense of the mysteries of the deep. The Kelpie was the original monster of the loch. It's fascinating to think that perhaps the modern legend of Nessie isn't a new phenomenon at all, but simply the latest chapter in a very old story. It's the ancient fear and wonder of the Kelpie, repackaged for a modern age. Stripped of its magical horse form and given the shape of a prehistoric beast, the Kelpie is more than just a fairy tale. It's a window into the soul of ancient Scotland. It's a story about respect for the power of nature, an acknowledgement of the fine line between beauty and peril. It teaches us that the world is filled with things that are both wonderful and dangerous, and that some forces are best left wild and untamed. Today, the spirit of the Kelpie lives on. You can even see it brought to life in breathtaking fashion near Falkirk. Two colossal, 100-foot-tall horse heads rise from the earth. These are the Kelpies, a stunning modern sculpture by Andy Scott. They stand as a powerful tribute not only to the mythological creature, but also to the real horses that powered Scotland's industrial heritage. They are a magnificent reminder of the enduring power of this ancient story, connecting the Scotland of myth and legend with the Scotland of today. So the next time you find yourself beside a dark Scottish loch, and you see a strange ripple dance across its surface, pause for a moment. It might just be the wind. It might be a trick of the light. Or, just maybe, it's a sign that the old spirits are still watching from the deep. Our next exploration into Scotland's most fascinating myths is the Selkie. The Selkie, the seal folk of the Isles. Have you ever stood on a desolate shore, the wind whipping salt spray against your face, and felt a profound, almost human-like gaze from the water? Have you ever watched a seal sunning itself on a rock and seen a flicker of something ancient and knowing in its dark liquid eyes? If you have, you might have been closer than you think to one of the most enchanting and melancholic legends of the British and Nordic Isles. Psst, the story of the Selkie. In the folklore of Scotland, Ireland, the Faroe Islands, there exists a belief in a people who are both human and seal. These are the Selkies, the seal folk. They are beings of profound duality, belonging fully to neither the land nor the sea, but to the liminal space in between the shoreline, the twilight, the moment where one world melts into another. The typical Selkie tale begins under the ethereal glow of the moon. On certain nights, a group of seals will swim to a secluded beach. As they emerge from the waves, they shrug off their glistening sealskins, revealing the breathtakingly beautiful human forms hidden beneath. They are the Selkies, and for a short, precious time, they dance and celebrate on the sand, free from their animal guise, reveling in their human nature. This is their moment of pure, unbridled joy. But this moment of freedom is also their moment of greatest vulnerability, because without their sealskin, a Selkie cannot return to the sea. It is their connection to their home, their very essence. And should that skin be taken, they are trapped. The story so often takes a turn towards love, and inevitably towards sorrow. A lonely fisherman, a farmer, or a laird, walking the shore late at night, stumbles upon this magical scene. He sees the Selkies dancing and is instantly captivated by one of them. Her beauty is otherworldly, her grace like nothing he has ever seen on land. Overcome by a desperate longing, he doesn't approach her. Instead, he finds her discarded sealskin, and in an act of profound consequence, he steals it and hides it away. When the other Selkies retrieve their skins and return to the waves, the one woman is left behind, frantically searching. She is stranded, heartbroken, and utterly alone on the human shore. The man who stole her skin then approaches her. He offers her comfort, clothing, and shelter, promises to love her and care for her. Powerless, with no way to return to her family and her world in the sea, she has little choice but to accept. And so, the Selkie becomes a human wife. These marriages are often described as being surprisingly happy, at least for a time. The Selkie wife is gentle, a wonderful mother, and though a strange melancholy always clings to her, she is a loving partner. She bears her human husband children, and these children often have unique characteristics, perhaps webbed fingers and toes, or an inexplicable, deep-seated love for the ocean. The family lives a seemingly normal life. The husband loves his wife deeply, perhaps even forgetting the fateful night he bound her to him. He believes his secret is safe, that the past is buried. But the Selkie never forgets. Her gaze will often drift towards the sea, a wistful, far-off look in her eyes. She'll sit by the shore for hours, as if listening for a call only she can hear. She loves her children, and she may even love her husband. But the longing for her true home, for the freedom of the waves, never fades. It's a constant, quiet ache in her soul. The story always reaches a turning point. Years pass. 7 is a common number in the folklore, a magical, cyclical number. One day, often by chance, one of the children, while playing, discovers an old locked chest in the attic, or a strange, oily bundle hidden under the rafters of the barn. Curious, they bring it to their mother. Or perhaps the Selkie herself, cleaning the house while her husband is away, stumbles upon the hiding place herself. She opens it, and there it is, her sealskin. The moment she touches it, everything comes flooding back. The scent of the salt, the sound of the waves crashing, the feeling of the cold, deep water embracing her. The call of the sea, which has been a faint whisper for so long, becomes an irresistible roar. And here lies the heart-wrenching dilemma.
Ow.
She is torn. She looks at her children, her human family, the life she has built on land. There is real love here. But the pull of her own nature, of her true self, is too powerful to deny. The storytellers tell us that in this moment, she is not just a woman choosing between two homes. She is a wild creature reclaiming its freedom. With tears streaming down her face, she kisses her sleeping children goodbye. She leaves the warm, safe home and runs to the shore, the place where her human life began. She pulls on the sealskin, and the transformation is immediate. The woman is gone, and in her place is a sleek, graceful seal. She dives into the waves, disappearing beneath the surface. When the husband returns home, he finds the house empty and the hidden sealskin gone. He runs to the shore, calling her name, but all he sees is a seal swimming away, its dark eyes looking back at him one last time. In some versions of the tale, she calls out to him, telling him that she loved him, but she could not stay. In others, a male sealed her original Selkie mate, who has waited for her all these years, swims up to join her, and they disappear together into the deep. The husband is left alone on the shore, heartbroken. He's lost his wife, and his children have lost their mother. Understands, too late, that you cannot truly own something that is wild. You can cage it, you can bind it, but you can never extinguish its true nature. His love, born of theft and possession, was ultimately doomed. The fate of the Selkie children varies. Sometimes their mother will return to the rocks near the shore to see them, leaving them beautiful shells and fish. She can no longer be human with them, but her maternal love endures across the boundary of worlds. Her human husband is often condemned to a life of sorrow, forever gazing at the sea, hoping for a glimpse of the wife he loved and lost. So what do these powerful, bittersweet stories really tell us? On the surface, they are beautiful, tragic romances. But they run much deeper. The Selkie represents the untamable spirit of nature, and specifically the wild, unpredictable nature of the sea. The fisherman who steals her skin represents humanity's attempt to control and possess the natural world, bend it to our will. The story serves as a poignant reminder that such attempts are futile and often end in sorrow. The sea gives life, it provides sustenance, but it can never be truly owned. It will always reclaim its own. These tales also speak to a deeply human experience, the feeling of being an outsider, of being trapped in a life that isn't truly yours. The Selkie wife, with her constant, quiet longing for the sea, is a powerful metaphor for anyone who feels a pull towards a different life, a different version of themselves. Her story is about the struggle between duty and desire, between a love for what you have and an inconsolable ache for what you've lost. It is the story of discovering your true self and the agonizing choice that sometimes comes with that discovery. The legend of the Selkie endures because it resonates with these universal themes: the wildness of nature, the complexities of love and loss, and the eternal, powerful call of home, wherever and whatever that may be. So next time you find yourself by the sea, listen closely to the sigh of the waves. And if you see a seal watching you from the water, give it a nod of respect. You might just be in the presence of royalty from a kingdom far beneath the waves, a soul who knows the bittersweet truth of living between two worlds. Now, if you enjoyed this story, let's continue our journey. Next, we will talk about spirits of the land. The house spirits. Have you ever felt a comforting presence in your home? Sense of peace that settles over the hearth when the wind howls outside? In Scotland, this feeling has a name. While the misty lochs and rushing rivers had their Kelpies and their Selkies, the very heart of the Scottish home, the hearth itself, was protected by its own guardians, the house spirits. Let's talk about the Brownie. Imagine this. After a long, grueling day of work in the fields or at the loom, you fall into a deep, exhausted sleep. But when you wake, something magical has happened. The kitchen's all set clean floor, churned butter, and a cozy fire crackling in the grate. This wasn't magic. Not exactly. It was the work of your household brownie. These beings were the unseen helpers, the secret caretakers of the Scottish family. They were often described as small, shaggy figures, dressed in simple brown ragged clothes, hence the name Brownie. They were shy, nocturnal creatures, deeply tied to a specific family or homestead. Their work was their purpose. They'd mend fences, thresh grain, watch over the livestock, perform countless domestic chores, all while the human inhabitants were sound asleep. They were the very definition of loyalty and diligence. But this help didn't come entirely for free. The brownie required a small token of appreciation. Not payment, mind you, but a gift. A bowl of rich cream, a piece of freshly baked bread slathered in honey, or a splash of good milk left by the fireside before bed. This simple offering was a sign of respect, a recognition of the symbiotic relationship between the human family and their otherworldly helper. It was an acknowledgement that said, "We see your work, we are grateful, and you are part of this home." This simple act of leaving out cream or bread maintained a delicate and crucial balance. It was a pact of mutual respect. The family provided a home and a small comfort, and in return, the brownie provided tireless, unseen labor that ensured the prosperity and smooth running of the household. For generations, families would pass down the knowledge. Remember the brownie's bowl. It was as essential a chore as milking the cows or mending the roof. As long as this pact was honored, the home was a place of harmony, warmth, and quiet efficiency. But here's the crucial part. The rule that could never, ever be broken. You must never, ever try to pay the brownie. You don't give them a new set of clothes. You don't leave out coins. You don't treat them like a hired hand. To do so was the gravest insult imaginable. Why? Because it shatters the very nature of their existence. The brownie isn't an employee. They are a member of the household, a guardian spirit bound by loyalty and affection, not by contract or coin. To offer payment was to tell the brownie your help is not a gift of kinship, but a service to be bought. It commercializes a sacred bond, and the moment that line is crossed, the brownie is gone. They would vanish from the home forever, feeling spurned and offended, taking their luck and protection with them. There are countless tales of well-meaning but foolish homeowners who, seeing their brownie's ragged clothes, left out a fine new suit only to wake up to a silent, empty house, the work undone, the spirit's presence vanished like smoke. They would never see their helpful friend again. However, a spurned brownie simply leaving is the best-case scenario. For every force of light and kindness, there is often a shadow. And to truly insult a house spirit, to treat it with disrespect or greed, was to invite its darker counterpart into your home. This is where we meet the Bòcan. If the brownie is the warmth of the hearth, The Bòcan is the chill that seeps through the cracks in the walls. The name itself, Bòcan, is related to the English word boogeyman and carries a similar sense of dread. Where the brownie was helpful and shy, the Bòcan is mischievous, malicious, and sometimes outright malevolent. It is the spirit of chaos, the embodiment of a household turned sour. A Bòcan doesn't tidy up, it makes a mess, will sour the milk, tangle the yarn, hide your tools, and spook the livestock. It makes noises in the dead of night, not the gentle hum of work, but bumps, scrapes, and terrifying whispers that crawl down your spine. It's the feeling of being watched in an empty room, the cold spot that has no source. The Bòcan is the house spirit's vengeance, a constant tormenting reminder that a sacred trust has been broken. Think of them as two sides of the same coin, two potential fates for the spirit of a home. The brownie represents the household and harmony, a place of mutual respect, kindness, and gentle reciprocity. The Bòcan represents a home in discord, where greed, disrespect, and ingratitude have taken root. The choice of which spirit inhabited your home was entirely up to the people living within it. These stories were more than just spooky tales to tell around the fire. They were moral lessons woven into the fabric of daily life. The tale of the brownie and the Bòcan was a powerful allegory about community, respect, and the dangers of greed. It taught a fundamental truth, that the best things in life, kindness, loyalty, help, cannot be bought or sold. They are gifts, freely given, and must be honored as such. To keep the brownie happy was to practice gratitude. It was a daily reminder to appreciate the unseen work that keeps a family, a farm, and a community running. It taught children that kindness, even to an unseen being, was essential for a safe and happy home. To invite the Bòcan, on the other hand, was a consequence of forgetting that lesson. It was what happened when you took things for granted, when you saw relationships as transactions rather than bonds. So, the next time you feel a sense of inexplicable order in your home, or a sudden wave of warmth and comfort, maybe, just maybe, you have an unseen friend looking out for you. Perhaps it's worth leaving a little something out by the fireplace, a small token of gratitude, not as payment but as a thank you. Because these old Scottish tales remind us that kindness, given without expectation of reward, keeps the hearth safe, the home happy, and the night blessedly quiet. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a brownie experience. If you are enjoying these stories, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales. Next up, we'll dive a little deeper and explore the myth of the fairy hound. Have you ever walked through the misty Highlands of Scotland and felt a sudden chill, a sense that you're not entirely alone? The wind whispers tales through the heather, ancient stories of creatures that walk the line between our world and the next. Tonight we journey into the heart of that mist, to uncover the legend of a creature both feared and revered, the fairy hound of the Scottish Highlands. Imagine a beast as large as a young bull, its shaggy fur the color of deep moss and damp earth. Its eyes, they say, burn with the intensity of peat embers glowing in the dark. This is no ordinary dog. The fairy hound is a harbinger from the other world, a supernatural entity whose presence has been a part of Highland lore for centuries. The name itself, Cù-Sìth, translates from Scottish Gaelic to fairy dog. It's often depicted with a long, braided or coiled tail, and its paws are the size of a man's hand. Like the malevolent black dog myths found elsewhere in the British Isles, the fairy hound occupies a more ambiguous space. It's not purely evil, but its appearance is a powerful and often terrifying omen. The most chilling aspect of the fairy hound is its howl. Shepherds and crofters living in the remote glens claimed its cry was so powerful it could be heard for miles, echoing from peak to peak. But this wasn't just a random howl. It was a sequence, a countdown with terrifying implications. The first howl was a warning. If you heard it, you had a chance. The legends instructed anyone, especially women and children, should immediately seek shelter. Find a locked door, a sturdy wall, anything to put between you and the open moor. The first cry gave you a moment to run, to hide, to pray. It was a sliver of mercy from the supernatural. The second howl was a plea, a sign that time was running out. The air would grow heavy, the world would seem to hold its breath. The sound would be closer, more desperate. It signaled that the hound was drawing near, its otherworldly purpose about to be fulfilled. The chance for escape was dwindling, the window of safety closing fast. And then, the third howl. For those who heard the third and final cry, there was no escape. It was said that the sheer force of this sound could stop your heart cold, that your very soul would be ripped from your body by the terror it induced. The third howl was a summons, a declaration that the fairy hound had arrived to claim a soul for the fairy realm. So, what was the purpose of this spectral beast? The stories vary, painting the fairy hound in different lights. One of the most prevalent beliefs is that it served the fairy queen, acting as her personal herald and soul collector. In this version, the hound was tasked with rounding up the spirits of those who had just passed away, guiding them, or perhaps forcing them, to the other world, the land of the Fae. This role as a psychopomp, a guide for souls to the afterlife, is a common theme in mythology worldwide. Think of Anubis in ancient Egypt, or Charon in Greek myths. The fairy hound was Scotland's own spectral ferryman, a guardian of the threshold between life and death. For the Highlanders, it was a stark reminder that even in the most remote, wild places, there were ancient rules and powerful keepers. But there's another, less terrifying interpretation. Some believe the fairy hound wasn't a soul stealer, but a guardian. In these tales, it was a protector of the fairy mounds, the Sud, which were considered sacred portals to the fairy world. The hound would fiercely defend these sites from mortals who might trespass or disrespect them. Its fearsome appearance and deadly howl were a deterrent, a warning to leave the old magic well alone. This duality makes the fairy hound so fascinating. Was it an omen of impending doom or a protector of a sacred realm? Perhaps it was both. Like the rugged, beautiful, and unforgiving landscape of the Highlands itself, the fairy hound embodied both danger and a deep ancient magic. It represented the untamable spirit of the wild. There are accounts, passed down through generations, of supposed encounters. A lone traveler caught in a sudden fog on the moors hears a distant, mournful cry. He quickens his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, a second howl, closer this time, seems to shake the very ground. He stumbles into a small, abandoned bothy, barring the door just as a third. Deafening roar echoes outside, followed by the sound of massive paws scratching at the wood. The man spends the night in terror, and by morning, the only sign of his visitor is a single gigantic paw print in the mud outside. Another story tells of a woman who, hearing the first cry, rushed to bring her children inside. As she barred the door, she saw a colossal green shape moving silently across the glen, its head low to the ground as if on a scent. She didn't dare look again until the sun was high in the sky the next day. These stories served as more than just frightening campfire tales. They were a way for people to make sense of the world around them. A world filled with sudden storms, unexplained disappearances, and the ever-present reality of death. In a land where a person could easily get lost in the mist and never be seen again, blaming a supernatural hound was a way to give tragedy a face, a narrative. The fairy hound reminded the Highlanders of their place in the world. It was a symbol of the raw, untamed power of nature and the supernatural. It taught respect for the unseen, for the boundaries between the human world and the world of spirits, fairies, and ancient gods. To disrespect these boundaries was to invite a visit from the great green hound. Today, you're unlikely to hear the triple howl of the fairy hound echoing across the glens. The world has grown louder, and perhaps the old magic has retreated deeper into the hills. But the legend endures. It lives on in the names of places, in the whispers of the wind, and in the imaginations of those who still look out at the misty mountains and wonder what might be watching from the shadows. The story of the fairy hound is a powerful thread in the rich tapestry of Scottish folklore. It's a creature that embodies the stark beauty and inherent danger of the Highlands. Whether you see it as a terrifying omen of death or a noble guardian spirit, the fairy hound is a potent reminder that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but only respected. The next time you find yourself in the wild heart of Scotland, listen carefully. You might just hear a faint echo on the wind, the first warning from the fairy hound. If you enjoyed uncovering the story of the fairy hound, then perhaps you will be interested in learning about the gentle wolfman of Shetland. Far to the north, where the Atlantic crashes against the rugged shores of the Shetland Islands, whispers of an ancient and peculiar creature drift on the sea spray. Forget everything you think you know about werewolves, about the savage beasts that howl under a full moon? The story I'm about to tell you is of a different kind of wolfman, a creature known as the Wulver. Picture this: a being with the body of a man but the head of a wolf, covered in short brown hair. He lives a solitary life, often seen sitting on a small, flat rock half submerged in the deep waters of a loch or the sea. This rock, known locally as the Wulver's Stane, is his throne, his place of contemplation. But he's not plotting or lurking, he's fishing. Unlike the fearsome beasts of folklore that prey on the innocent, the Wulver was a figure of benevolence. He was a protector, a provider for those in need. Legends say he would spend hours, sometimes all night, patiently fishing from his stone. And what did he do with his catch? God, he didn't devour it himself. Instead, under the cloak of darkness, he would creep to the windowsills of the poorest families, the ones with hungry children and empty larders, and leave a fresh fish for them to find in the morning. This wasn't a one-time act of kindness. It was his nature. The Wulver was a constant, silent presence in the lives of the Shetlanders. He asked for nothing in return. No praise, no offerings, no recognition. His reward was simply knowing he had helped. He was a symbol of quiet charity, a reminder that kindness can come from the most unexpected of places. You might be wondering, was he ever a threat? The answer is a resounding no. The Wulver was never known to harm a single soul. In fact, he was known to guide lost travelers back to safety. If you were wandering the misty moors, disoriented and afraid, the sight of the Wulver might at first send a chill down your spine. But then he would simply point the way, a silent guide leading you out of danger and back to the familiar path home. He was a guardian of the lost, a beacon in the wilderness. His origins are shrouded in mystery, as are many things from the old world. Some folklorists believe the legend of the Wulver might have been inspired by a real person, perhaps someone suffering from a condition like hypertrichosis, which causes excessive hair growth. Imagine, in an age of superstition, a person with such a condition, ostracized and living in solitude, who chose kindness over bitterness. Perhaps this real-life figure, through acts of quiet generosity, became the basis for this gentle monster. Another theory connects the Wulver to ancient Scandinavian traditions, the legacy of the Norsemen who settled Shetland centuries ago. These beliefs often included spirits of nature, beings that were neither wholly good nor wholly evil, but simply existed as part of the landscape. The Wulver fits this description perfectly, a spirit of the lonely shores, as much a part of Shetland as the rocks and the waves. What's fascinating about the Wulver is his consistency. He isn't a shapeshifter. He wasn't a human cursed to become a beast. He simply was. The Wulver was born a Wulver and died a Wulver. He existed in his unique state, a bridge between man and nature, a creature of inherent peace. His existence challenges our very definition of what a monster is. We're so accustomed to tales where the monstrous form hides a monstrous soul. The Wulver turns that idea completely on its head. Think about it. In a world full of human conflict, greed, and cruelty, here was a monster who dedicated his existence to simple acts of compassion. He fished for the hungry, guided the lost, and kept to himself, never disturbing the peace. He represented a pure, selfless kindness that often seemed absent in the human world around him. He was a quiet critique of society, a furry, four-legged embodiment of the goodness that humanity sometimes forgets. The stories of the Wulver were passed down from generation to generation, told by the fireside on long, dark winter nights. These weren't tales meant to frighten children into obedience. They were lessons in empathy. They taught that you should not judge a book by its cover or a being by its wolf-like head. They taught that true monstrosity lies in one's actions, not one's appearance. In every culture, we have our monsters: dragons, goblins, ghouls. Most of them exist to represent our fears: the fear of the dark, the fear of the unknown, the fear of death. But the Wulver? Yeah. He represents something else entirely. He represents hope. He is the quiet assurance that even in the wildest, most desolate places, you can find a helping hand. He is the proof that a gentle heart can beat within a seemingly fearsome chest. As time moved on and the modern world began to encroach on the old ways, sightings of the Wulver became less frequent. Small communities became larger, the fishing boats grew, and the need for a supernatural provider lessened. Like many magical creatures of folklore, he seems to have faded back into the mists from which he came. The Wulver stain might still be there, but its silent occupant is gone. But his story remains, and it's a story we need now more than ever. It's a powerful parable about prejudice and perception. It asks us to look past the surface, to find the humanity, or perhaps the Wulver Anoti in others. The Wulver teaches us that true strength isn't about power or dominance, but about gentleness and the will to help others without expecting anything in return. So the next time you hear a story about a monster, pause for a moment. Ask yourself if it's truly a creature of nightmare, or could it be like the Wulver of Shetland? Not a monster sent to scare us, but a guardian sent to remind us of our own capacity for kindness. A gentle wolfman who, from his lonely rock, showed the world what it truly means to be good. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to the misty shores of Shetland. Want to explore more hidden corners of folklore? Let's look now at the Nuckelavee. Have you ever heard the salty wind whisper a name so terrible, it chills you to the bone even on the warmest day? Let me take you to the misty shores of the Orkney Islands, a place of stunning beauty, but also of ancient, deep-seated terror. For it is here that legends speak of the Nuckelavee. Imagine a creature born from the darkest depths of the sea, a being that defies all natural laws. Picture a monstrous horse, its flesh raw and skinless, with crimson muscles pulsing and twisting in a grotesque display. Now, fused to its back, is the torso of a man, equally devoid of skin, his long arms nearly scraping the ground. His head lolls, a single, fiery eye, burning with malice, and from his gaping mouth comes a breath so vile, so toxic, it wilts crops and sickens livestock. This is the Nuckelavee, the demon of the sea.
Oh, this isn't some fairy tale monster.
To the people of Orkney, the Nuckelavee was a very real threat. It was known as the bringer of the Mortasheen, a deadly plague that swept through the islands, devastating both cattle and humans. Its appearance signaled drought, famine, and widespread despair. When the seaweed rotted on the beaches or the harvest failed, the islanders knew the Nuckelavee was riding. Its presence was a curse upon the land, a tangible manifestation of nature's wrath. But where did such a horrifying creature come from? The old tales say the Nuckelavee was not merely a random monster. It was a punishment. It was said to rise from its abyssal home when humanity grew arrogant. When people forgot their respect for the powerful, unpredictable sea. When they neglected their offerings and their duties to the ancient sea spirits, the Nuckelavee would emerge to remind them of their place. It was a brutal lesson in humility, a reminder that the natural world, beautiful as it is, holds a power that demands reverence. Its malevolence was legendary. The Nuckelavee hated all things of the land. Its very purpose seemed to be the destruction of life and prosperity. Farmers would find their fields blighted overnight. Fishermen would return to find their boats mysteriously damaged, and a sense of dread would hang heavy in the air. The only solace, the only sliver of hope, was the creature's one great fear: fresh running water. A clear, flowing stream was the only barrier that could halt its relentless pursuit. Many a terrified soul was said to have escaped its clutches by leaping across a burn, the Nuckelavee screeching in frustration on the other side. The legend of the Nuckelavee serves as more than just a scary story to tell around a fire. It's a powerful metaphor for the balance between humanity and nature. It embodies the consequences of taking the world for granted, of assuming dominance over forces far older and more powerful than ourselves. The skinless form of the Nuckelavee, with its exposed veins and muscles, is it's a visceral image of this truth, that beneath the surface of civilization, the raw power of nature is always there, pulsing, waiting. It's a reminder that the sea gives, but it can also take away, and that respect for the environment isn't just a good idea, it's a matter of survival. So next time you stand by the ocean and feel the spray on your face, listen closely to the waves. You might just hear the echo of an ancient warning, the tale of the sea devil of Orkney, a creature born of salt and rage, reminding us that nature always collects its debts. These creatures were never merely tales. They were how the Scots explained the unexplainable: fog, drowning, madness, death. The Kelpie taught respect for the water. The Brownie, gratitude for humble living. The Nuckelavee, fear of neglecting one's duty to the land. Each legend was a code, part survival guide, part sermon, passed through generations in whispers and song. In the mist, faith and folklore walked side by side. Today, Scotland's mythic beasts live on, not in fear, but in pride. The Kelpie statues rise in steel and stone. The Selkie sings in poetry. Even the fairy hound prowls through modern fantasy. These myths remind Scotland who it is. Fierce, wild, unbroken, they are more than legends, they are memory. Because in the Glens, the guardians still keep watch. Which of these ancient guardians do you believe still walks the Highlands? Tell me in the comments, and if you dare to find them yourself, subscribe for more whispered tales of the forgotten and the fierce. Thank you for watching Whispered Chronicles, echoes of forgotten lore. Your time, your curiosity, and your open mind mean more than you know. If tonight's journey through Scotland's mist and myth stirred something ancient in you, be sure to like, subscribe, and join me again for more tales whispered from the edges of history. Till next time, keep your lanterns lit, your heart brave, and as always, stay safe.